I always kind of kept that walk on mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, just keep grinding every day. Like, whatever you do in the dark, always gonna come to the light.
Like you said, October when you guys had posted me, that's actually the post that connected me and my wife.
You're joking.
No, I promise. So everybody was
You're
like
joking.
reposting it and stuff, and she had saw it on somebody's story, so she followed me on Instagram, and I followed her back.
Hello, welcome back to Division 1 Rejects. I'm your host, Kobe Manzo, on this episode 201 on the night of May 5th. And let me start by saying this episode contains the craziest story I have ever heard being a part of this podcast in the last 5 years. And I probably put it at the intro of this video, so you might have already heard a snippet of it, but a ridiculous tie-in of a kind of a butterfly effect of what this podcast has done elsewhere in the world. So I'll leave it at that. But that brings me right into our two great guests that join me tonight. The first of which, defensive back William Davis from Virginia Union. He balled out with the Panthers, had one of the best statistical seasons that team did in the history of their program. He now has the opportunity to go transfer up to the FBS level and play with West Virginia. So a really big-time opportunity for him there out of D2 in the CIAA. Then we move on to Dwight Lewis III from Marian, Indiana. Played for Marian at the NAIA level. Now has transferred to Mississippi State, once again, making the jump from small school to Power 4. That is the theme of this episode, talking about and trying to highlight some of these former small school players going to Power 4 or big-time Division 1 type programs. We highlighted a bunch of them on social. Going to try and continue to highlight more of them in the coming weeks. But yeah, really excited to talk with both those guys. And at this point, I've already recorded both those conversations. They were awesome. The guys were absolutely incredible, so definitely stick around for those. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget video chapters down in the description. Use that little red bar to fast forward any part of the conversation that sounds remotely good to you. Otherwise, those chapters also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this episode. So, I do have a tweet of the week this week for us to take a look at. This one comes from Coach Kelly. He is the offensive coordinator at NAIA Friends University in Kansas. The tweet says here, there's an accompanying picture that I'll read, but the tweet says here, in this hypothetical situation, it's high school coach. How's recruiting, man? That's got to be fun. You get to build your team. In response, we talk about building a championship roster. And the high school coach says, what's the worst part of recruiting? To which he replies, easy. This hypothetical situation and conversation. This is the image, a text thread from Coach Kelly that he tweeted out with what can presumably be a prospective student athlete, a recruit. The recruit starts the conversation off by saying, do you guys have NIL opportunities? And he responds, he says, individually, some guys do that are All-Americans or have plugged in with blank. It's up to the individual player. Very appropriate response, especially from an NAIA institution. The kid doesn't respond to that, responds later, probably the next day or days later, and says, what are the jersey options looking like? What are the jersey number options looking like? To which he says, what do you mean? Can I wear 00 my freshman year? And the coach replies, no, it's definitely something we don't give priority to freshmen. Is that something that's important to you? It's just the icing on the cake. He says, the recruit back to that response, that is kind of a deal breaker for me. I'm so nice, I rock 0 twice. And there's a part of me that's like, this conversation has to be fake, but also what the hell does Coach Kelly gain from posting it? That's got to be real. It's just so outrageous when you go through and you read this whole conversation. You just, in your head, you're like, there are really kids that handle the recruiting process like this? I'm so nice, I rock 0 twice. That's actually a bar. That's hilarious. Although, I don't know. Someone correct me. I don't think you're allowed to wear 00. I think 0 is the only acceptable 0. So he might be in for a rude awakening coming to the college level. That had to be the tweet of the week. But anyways, we'll continue moving on. Thank you, Coach Kelly, for sharing that. Let's get into this episode and get into these guest conversations. Before we get into those guest conversations, we've got a featured athlete on tonight's episode, that being Bailey Streams, the wide receiver and defensive back out of Covenant Christian Academy down in Gray, Louisiana. He's a class of 2025. Like I said, wide receiver, defensive back, plays both sides of the ball and does it well. Got a 3.8 GPA, coming in at 5'11", 170 pounds, a 4.65 40-yard dash. And this guy obviously has some skill. He averaged more than 15 yards per catch in his senior season. And some things, when you pull up the film and you watch, the first thing that really shows out is his ability to high point the football, something that's obviously crucial for both sides of the ball at both those different positions that he plays. He's shown that he can beat the press in red zone situations, and he can take what's given to him in the zone, finding space, trying to find some of those gaps in the defense. As you go through the film, you also see he's got ability and experience in the return game as well, being able to take a clean catch. A lot of the stuff in his film is picking up or scooping the ball off the ground and just kind of going with it, making something out of nothing. He also does a really good job of adjusting body positioning, making the play after the throw is already in the air. So a lot of really good things coming out of Bailey, and he's looking for a new home this fall. So definitely get at him. Got his contact information on the screen. Contact either him or his coach to get in touch about recruiting him this fall for your respective squads. All of that being said, let's hear from him himself.
First off, I'm a great leader on and off the field. Got a good work ethic. I'm able to, make new relationships with new people. I'm coachable. And just a guy, you can rely on and off the field.
Joining the show tonight, we posted about him. I did a little deep dive back in October of 2023. And the reason he was on there, a game he grabbed 3 interceptions. The team had 5. He's been doing this for a while. Since then, though, gotten married, become a father, and now has transferred to FBS Mississippi State. Dwight Lewis III. Man, you are winning at life, brother. Let me start with that.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Just to talk about the roller coaster for you on and off the field, man. This is a time in your life right now where you get to experience so much, and I'm sure that helps develop you, of course, as a player, but just as a man, I have to imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, October, when you guys had posted me, that's actually the post that connected me and my wife.
No, you're joking.
No, I promise. So everybody was
joking
reposting it and stuff. And she had saw it on somebody's story, so she followed me on Instagram, and I followed her back. And that's really how we started, I swear.
This like sounds staged. I'm blown away. That's incredible.
Yeah, I tell everybody, that's like our story. It's hilarious.
That is incredible. And I'm not going to take credit for, where it went from then. That's all you. And, obviously you found a great life partner in her, but no way, man. I genuinely cannot wrap my head around that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny. Then everything moved fast from there. I mean, we clicked pretty much instantly. Dude,
that is incredible, man. I really don't have words. I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but that's so awesome. And I mean, from a career standpoint, obviously from a life standpoint, we know what's happened since then, but from a career standpoint, you've just gotten better and better, right? Those last 2 years at Marian where you've really just showed up. You had a breakout year, and then it's one thing to have a breakout year, but then to follow it up with potentially an even better year, right? You go out and put that stuff on film, appearing in 1 game in 2 years before those 2 incredible years, right? That's something that, you can really build on and kind of hang your hat on at the end of the day. How has that experience and having to, quote unquote, really go out and earn it at that level, how has that helped you grow and develop as a player? What do you bring from that experience to MSU? Yeah,
I mean, those 2 years were probably the most fun I've had playing football, being on a scout team and just like really enjoying the game, getting to learn the game and develop as a player. I really give it all to my position coach when I was at Marian, Coach Tetsi. I watched my film sometimes from high school, and it was just no technique. I was just out there playing football. But he made me the player I am today. And then, of course, being able to meet my wife and everything, she just gave me the extra motivation I needed and just pushed me to become the best player I could be.
Takes a village, man. People say that all the time, right?
That's right.
And a lot of times it is family, it is community, it is other things. And now, of course, having now a kid and a wife and some of these things, how does that motivate you even more, of course? Not that necessarily in this idea of like putting food on the table, but just because they're in your corner and you probably at some points feel like, man, I can't lose, right? When you have the support of people like that, what does that do for you and your motivation moving forward to this next opportunity?
Yeah, I think it completely takes it to a whole new level. I mean, I know I really have a why now, kind of, rather than just playing the game to play it. You really know why you're playing, and really I set the bar high now that I have a son. So like he can follow my footsteps, and just being able to, all the relationships I've created throughout my time playing football, especially going up and being in transfer portal and everything, I feel like it helps a lot.
100%, man. I think that's absolutely real. So post that, it gets shared to story. She sees that, follow. Sorry, of course I'm going back to this. I'm still just thinking about it in my brain. And then it's a couple messages from there, first date, and then we just roll. I mean, walk me through that.
Yeah, so a couple messages. It was like lasted for a couple weeks or whatever, and then my quarterback, he took me over to our first date or whatever, because my car got stolen off campus.
Oh my goodness!
So my car got stolen off campus. Then he ended up taking me over there, and then he was the best man in our wedding.
Man.
So, and our wedding was mid-season last year. Like, we had a game Saturday, got married Sunday, then back to practice Tuesday. It was hilarious.
Dude, that is so awesome. And obviously, I mean, she knows what she's signing up for, right? Right in the middle of that and everything going on. And I'm assuming that, she's obviously been supportive. You talked about it through that process, giving you your why. And that's super important. There's some guys that they don't have that. And you really can't make it to the level that I'm sure you're aspiring to get to if you don't have that, right? You talk about some of that motivation and some of those deals, man. That's really special. And you've had the opportunity now to practice, to work with this team in the spring. Talk about special. That's really valuable for you, right? To definitely get familiar with what they have going on. What were some of your objectives when it came down to maybe what you wanted to quote unquote accomplish this off season, so to speak, when it came to showing up on campus?
Yeah, mainly just establishing myself, not just as a player, but in the community as well. I did a lot of community service,
Nice.
which is really something I've always wanted to do at Marian. We didn't have a whole lot of it with a much smaller community, but being able to go to state and help out with all the kids, help out at the library, going to shoot ball with kids, all that type of stuff. That's what I love, man. It makes the game so much more fun when you can give back.
Yeah, you talk about your why. You go out and do those things. You're giving a lot of other people their why, right?
Yeah.
Showing up on Saturday. Now they've got a reason to show up to these games. And, of course, that might have been more of a push at Marian than it is at Mississippi State. There's a lot of different whys, but you come from that background, and that's important, right? People in those shoes. I played D2 football. I understand. There's not a whole group of people that are just going to show up because it's a football game, right? You know what I mean? So for you to have that background and to continue that mindset is a neat deal. How do you go now on the field? Talk to me about your role going into this fall. How do you expect to make an impact right away?
I mean, just compete. We've been competing every day. I got really close with the corner group there. Really, all the DBs were really close. We text every day. We hang out all the time. And going into the fall, I feel like we got a good corner competition brewing up.
Okay.
We should have a good team this year. Last year, they fell a little short, but we brought in over 50 guys in transfer portal. So
holy.
Coach Levy's been doing his thing in the transfer portal this offseason, making sure that we can compete next year.
And so, I mean, obviously, for a guy in your situation, it'd be very different if you were one of 6 transfers to come in at spring ball, right? This has to feel like an almost entirely new roster, and you get the benefit of just being another guy added to the mix. Is that kind of the general feeling?
Yeah, I mean, we brought in 3 corners, a JUCO guy, and then a corner from Kennesaw State as well.
Okay.
We're all competing, and then returning Kelly Jones. He was a starter for them last year. He's kind of reminds me of a little bit of myself, and like the way he's a big corner. He's really big, fast, and can compete on all the deep balls and everything. So I feel like we'll have a really good room next year.
Yeah, you talked about a little bit of the physical attributes, right? Being someone who's long and can play that position is just naturally athletic is obviously a big part of your game, and anyone at that level, if we're being very honest. But NAI to SEC, that's a massive jump. I think that's saying the very obvious, one that you've certainly proven you're ready for. What was it about your film, though, in your eyes that stood out to the staff down there and really made you a target?
Well, I feel like just my ability to ball hawk. A lot of guys play with DB because they were a receiver before and couldn't catch the ball. I feel like I'm the complete opposite. I just feel like I have that advantage over a lot of guys. And I pretty much can run with anybody, I feel like. So being able to compete on all those balls, whether it's a deep ball, a slant, just being able to go and attack the ball, unlike other guys, is really big for me.
10 catches allowed in 24 games, huh?
Yeah.
That's a number you don't see all the time. That's one that I had to double check, but that is a ridiculous statistic. What clicked for you, man, between that redshirt freshman and sophomore season that led to some really unreal production from you at Marian?
I feel like just my coaches believe in me. We had a new coordinator come in before that first year I started, Coach Robinson. He's at NIU now, but
Okay.
he was there with me both years at Marian. And when you have a coach that just trusts you to go out and play, and just lock up that side of the field, it makes you play completely different. It gives you freedom to do whatever you really feel within the limits, of course, the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have confidence, I mean, the ball is in your court. You can really do whatever.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of, I guess, quote-unquote time off now, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing anything football-related, but to be away from the facility for a little bit. What does the summer programming look like for you guys?
Mm-hmm. As of right now, I'm kind of just working with some of the Marian guys while I'm in Indy.
That's cool.
Teaching them a couple of things that I can bring back from state.
Really cool,
and,
yeah.
Then getting back to Mississippi and getting in with my guys there before we start workouts in the summer.
Good stuff, man. And then being on campus, I guess, as you roll into that, is that tough? I mean, going forward with a new family and those kind of things, how do you navigate, if you don't mind me asking, how you navigate that part of life? Because that's obviously something that is very important to you and something you got to make work. Playing at the next level, it's at a different place.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's not super hard for me just because my wife is so supportive. She helps me a lot, and she knows, right now football is providing for our family.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it can in the future. With that being the goal, I kind of separate football from when I'm home, make sure I'm giving her the time she needs as well as my son when I am home, because I know being at the facility for super long hours, she can be by herself a lot.
100%, man. Dude. A-plus player, knew that going into the interview. A-plus human, kind of assumed that, definitely cemented that. I told you before we got going, I'm excited for you in this next opportunity, but I know you've made a fan out of me very much so today, and I'm assuming you've made a fan out of many others. So, Dwight, thank you for your time, dude. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to see what you do on the field this fall, and then moving forward, just excited to follow along with you, man. Seriously.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Have a good rest of your night, man. All right, my one topic for tonight's show, and this is kind of the theme of everything, is the former small school players going Power 4, going to big-time universities, and that's something that we highlighted on social this week. These are some of the highest-ranked small school transfers that have already found their homes. There are still some available, still some that are signing and committing as we speak. The goal is to continue to highlight more and more of these guys as we go on. But first up, the wide receiver out of Emory and Henry, Cam Abshire. He's a guy going to Oklahoma State. You look at those stats just in 2024. On top of the fact that he's incredibly lengthy, he got a great build and a great kind of size and style of play that will translate to the higher level of D1 football. But 51 catches, over 1,000 receiving yards, 13 tuds, almost 100 yards per game. In a conference that had some really great competition. Emory and Henry kind of played the upset and played the stunner in a couple games this year, and he was a big part of that on the offensive side of the ball. So he'll be heading over to Oklahoma State. Not the only small school wide receiver we'll talk about going over there. Then, next up, staying at the wide receiver position, Valdosta State, a team that really has kind of been decimated by the transfer portal, and just because you lose your head coach, you lose a couple other key pieces, and you also have a lot of guys who are very talented, very good football players. Rodney Bullard is one of those guys. Again, the 2024 stats speak for themselves. Valdosta State plays a tough schedule, played deep into the playoffs. He is making the move up to East Lansing, joining the Spartans at Michigan State University, going from the Gulf South to the Big Ten. Shout out to him. Really excited for that opportunity to keep things going. This is an exciting one. Jack from Hope College, a D3 on the western side of Lower Michigan, also making the jump to East Lansing, bypassing NAI, bypassing D2, FCS, going straight to the FBS level at Michigan State University. That is impressive. Again, the 2024 stats are good. Not necessarily something that is you would look at and immediately jump to assumed Power 4. But when you watch the tape, you turn the tape on, you see a guy that was, outclassing everyone on the other side of the ball when you see what he's been able to do for the Flying Dutchman down there. So really exciting opportunity for him. Will he be an impact player right away? Maybe not. He's still got quite a few years left in his college career, is my understanding. He might not be a guy that goes out and is part of the starting rotation right away this fall, but definitely a great chance to go and grow, and a good opportunity this spring, I'm assuming he's had, and to go into the fall and continue to build on that. So D3 to the Big Ten. That's incredible. Keeping things going. We talked to Will later in this episode. Will making the move from Virginia Union to West Virginia, making that jump once again, D2 to the big stage. And he's a guy that these stats are actually incorrect. He let me know. I was going off the website, which had some improper different numbers and materials. He's got some even more impressive stats than this. This is a guy that, once again, you turn the tape on it and it was very obvious what he was capable of. And his transfer portal window, we get into it in the conversation, man, was so quick. A lot of interest right off the bat. West Virginia comes in late, gives him an offer, and he found that that was home for him. So really cool conversation. Definitely get ready for that one. Let's go to the tight end position. Zach Atkins from Northwest Missouri State. And this is one of those ones that I saw some people commenting, how do you go from Northwest Missouri State to Colorado with these kind of stats? Couple things. First of all, I think what should speak for Zach is Colorado was not his only offer. He fielded quite a few offers. I believe a couple SEC, some other big-time Power 4 programs. You don't get multiple offers at that level if you're not ready to go play at that level. That should be the first thing that should back his argument. The second part is the tight end position is an interesting one. Not every tight end is going to have the most flashy receiving and touchdown-type numbers. Because of the play style, that could certainly determine where the tight ends kind of stack up when it comes to statistical categories, because they are really, an extension of that offensive line. And with that comes not a lot of numbers, right? So his play style might not be one that fills up the stat book. He obviously has earned that opportunity to go up and play at Colorado. Keep things moving. You'll notice a lot of Ferris State Bulldogs on this list as we get going. Lawrence at Hatar, hopefully pronouncing that one correctly, going from Ferris State, the front five for the Bulldogs, to Michigan in the Big Ten, staying in Michigan, moving up a level. Really excited for him. And you talk about Ferris State. One of the most physical fronts in all of D2 football, in really all the football that I've seen at the college level. And what has separated Ferris State time and time again is their depth at the offensive line position. Obviously, they got guys like Lawrence at the front that are going to be incredibly skilled, incredibly talented, and athletic. But the guys behind him, not much worse. We're talking a 1A, 1B situation. I've seen Ferris State take out 5 offensive linemen and do a line change. Bring in another 5. Keep the legs fresh. Keep the drive going down the field. One of the most impressive things I've seen in college football. Ferris State got a lot of depth at the O-line position. Lawrence, just the most recent, very talented one. And already talked with Dwight. Not much to be said. The stats speak for themselves. The film speaks for itself. This guy going on from Marian at the NAIA level to Mississippi State. Big time move for the kid. Now, another wide receiver heading to Oklahoma State, Terrell Davis. Look at the numbers from this guy. Please. I implore you. 123.8 yards per game. Over 100 catches, 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns just this year alone. Really part of a great offense that led UCO to one of their best offensive seasons in program history, in the best conference in D2 football, going up against great defensive competition each and every week. This guy's been fun to follow, really fun to follow along with, and has earned himself an opportunity at Oklahoma State, staying in state, going up a level. Another Ferris Bulldog on the offensive side of the ball, albeit a very different position. Trinidad Chambliss going from Ferris State to Ole Miss. Another SEC guy. Again, you look at these numbers, that's not career stats, that's 2024. He's got 4,000 combined yards and over 50 combined passing and rushing touchdowns. You don't do that at any level of football if you aren't incredibly talented, and have a great system around you, of course. But talk about a guy who wasn't even the starting quarterback coming into the year. It was Carson Golker, who goes down just a couple weeks in. Trinidad has to pick up the reins and pick it up from there. And he picked it up and did quite well with it. Finished pretty high up in the Harlan Hill voting, the D2 Heisman, and now has earned himself the opportunity to go join Lane Kiffin and company down at Ole Miss to be a part of what I can hear, is a very competitive and open quarterback room. Is he going to be the guy heading into fall camp? I doubt it. Will he be the guy heading out of fall camp? Maybe. Certainly will earn himself some looks at the position with what he's been able to do in his track record in college. Marcellus Hawkins, the running back from Central Missouri, going to Virginia Tech once again. Stats speak for itself for a guy like this. And when you're playing with Zach Zabrowski at quarterback, a lot of times that run game for the Mules may have gotten overshadowed by the ludicrous passing numbers that they were putting up down there in the MIAA. The run game for the Mules was doing just fine, much in part to Marcellus, earned himself an opportunity up there with Virginia Tech. So excited to keep in touch and follow along with all these guys, Marcellus as well. Once again, back to that Ferris State O-line. Bryce George going from probably one of the best dominant physical offensive fronts in D2 football to one of the best, most dominant, most physical offensive fronts in all of college football. Going from Ferris State to Iowa. He'll be joining the Hawkeyes. So, really exciting list. Do we have a couple more here? Matt Young from Bethel, the defensive back who put just about every stat in the book, over 100 tackles, 15 TFLs, also had 9 picks in 2024 alone, 11 passes defended. He's going from Bethel back to his home state. He's from Neenah, Wisconsin. He'll be going to Madison this time around to join the Badgers at Wisconsin from D3 to the Big Ten. A couple of those guys on this list. Really, really neat. So, like I said, the goal is to continue to highlight more and more of these guys as we go through the next couple of weeks and continue to just, I guess, really, as the year goes on, follow them at their destinations or respective schools and see what kind of impact they can have this fall. So, with all that being said, let's get into that second guest conversation here from one of those guys. Joining the show tonight, the D2 product from Virginia Union, made his mark with the Panthers. Now, though, got the opportunity to perform at the FBS level with West Virginia. From walk-on to D1, Will Davis. What's up, dude? Reppin'. I love it.
Yes, sir. Always repping the OSB. How you doing?
Dude, I'm excited to get you on here. I was telling you, it's one thing for us to post about guys going and get an opportunity at the next level. I think it's way better to just hear right from you guys about that process. So excited to get you on here tonight. And, you know, I look at the bio. The first thing is like former walk-on. You're a former walk-on down there at Virginia Union?
Yes, sir.
That is
2020, I came in, COVID baby. And shoot, that was kind of like my last chance. My brother was already going there. I had some other scholarship offers to go to some other D2 schools, but my brother was already at Virginia Union, so they offered me a walk-on. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take it and run with it. You know what I'm saying? Make the best of your opportunity.
100%, man. That's like textbook betting on yourself, right? It didn't stop right there. You walk onto the team, and then you redshirt in year one, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you go now. Of course, them giving you an opportunity is still great, but obviously you're looking for more than that coming out of high school and getting into the college game. What changed from then? Go back all the way to, you know, you getting that news of being redshirted in year one, all the way to now. What's changed? And then more importantly, what's stayed the same in your mindset and maybe the way that you prepare?
I always kind of kept that walk-on mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like, just keep grinding every day, like, because I know how I feel to be at the bottom. So when you at the bottom, you kind of getting overlooked. You got to do more to get seen. So anytime you do work, whatever you do in the dark, always gonna come to the light. And that's kind of the mindset I always put to myself. Whatever I'm doing now, it's gonna show soon. So
yeah, well said, dude. I like that. I think a lot of guys can definitely relate to that because, I mean, we throw all kinds of the quotes and different things people say, but it really is all about where you finish, right? Not about where you start. And there's guys that, in this day and age, you can earn opportunities. You know, a guy like yourself, go out there and put it on film, earn yourself an opportunity. And obviously, had some dudes around you too, right? That team last year, the best year, and I had to look this one up, in the 125-year history of the program, you guys on top in a lot of ways. What stands out about that team back in 24? A lot of talent around you. I kind of already said that, but what else stands out about that 24 team, man, in your eyes?
I kind of think it was the camaraderie. Like, we had a good team bond, honestly, and we had a lot of guys come back. I think we had like 8 starters come back on defense, so it was kind of just like we just had to plug in kind of a couple guys and just make the run.
Absolutely. And you hit the portal right after the 24 season. Was the interest from other schools immediate? Was that something as soon as that, you know, you put out the tweet, you get your actual notification of transfer out, like schools and coaches were in there right away, or what?
Yeah, a lot of coaches hit me up, and I had decided it was coming down to making a decision soon. I was like, well, I'm going to commit on Friday, and then West Virginia, like, came out of nowhere on a Wednesday.
Really?
And, shoot, I was like, oh, West Virginia. Let me take a visit out here. And
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I went out there and I just fell in love with it.
That's super cool. And you go through that process. You know, you had mentioned, like, thankfully you're able to go out there and visit and
So
be
it
in
was,
Morgantown and visit campus and meet with the coaching staff face to face and be around the people and those things. You're not able to do that with every campus, every offer that you receive. There's, you know, a finite number of days you can actually go out and do those visits. What are some of those things, aside from, of course, the scholarship money and what they're offering, that help you determine some of your top or preferred landing spots, so to speak?
it was kind of schooling wise, like mastering, like what I'm gonna do to get my second degree
Good
in,
answer.
and
Good answer.
just how the coaches, you know what I'm saying? You could tell how the coaches, like West Virginia, showed me love from the time they called me, from the time I showed up, from the time I left, from the time I even came back. You know what I'm saying? Like they showed me they wanted me. You know what I'm saying? So you got to go where you want it. It's not where you want to play and stuff like that, or about the money. It's not about that. You know what I'm saying? You got to go where you get the best opportunity for your future.
Yeah, man. And that process for you, looking back at it, was pretty quick, right? You enter the portal December 21st. You're on campus at West Virginia, having committed and signed and all of that basically a month later. Like, all of that
Yeah.
happens in such a short time span, which is just really incredible. I imagine, though, there's an emphasis on being very efficient and quick in that process because of just the volume and the number of guys that are in the portal. You talk about go where you wanted, but, you know, if there are schools showing that love, you better take them up on it right away, because there's a really short window of kind of where these opportunities are available. Is that kind of the same idea?
Yeah, it is, especially, like around Christmas, it's holidays and, bowl games going on,
Hmm.
and then you got New Year's coming around. So you got to take some of those days out of the
Yeah.
3 weeks that I really had. So it was kind of like a fast process, but I had to hurry up and make a decision. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to sit down with myself and say, okay, this what I need to do for my future, and this the process. Like. So it was short, but it was kind of like I made a good decision and I don't regret it.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that. And obviously, you're confident in your skill set, and what you've been able to put on tape at Virginia Union has been something that's spoken for itself. And I wanted to know, you talked about West Virginia coming in late, maybe to the party when it came to this very abbreviated re-recruitment process in the portal. What do you think, in your mind, helped to for them, I guess, to show on film? What do you think really stood out to them on film that helped for them to make that same determination, for them to realize that you were a guy they wanted to go after?
Uh, I mean, they say the eye in the sky don't lie, so I feel like when they turned on the tape,
I
they
like
kind of
it.
knew like, okay, he can tackle, he can cover. We just got to get him here to see what he can do in this defense that we running. So that's kind of what it was, and they just liked how I played, and
Mhm.
shoot, we just went from there.
Yeah, I like that. That process of initial contract to getting and fielding that offer and going to signing, how short was that actual process, man? Like, a probably pretty quick turnaround.
Shoot, it was a turnaround for sure. Like I went on a Friday. I got there at like 1 a.m. because it was snowing, and I didn't get to the airport till like
Man.
11:30 ish. And shoot, it was an hour drive, and
Hmm.
it was snowing. I got to the hotel at 1, woke up at 8, and then shoot, I talked when I left Saturday. Coach Rod was like, "You want to be a Mountaineer?" I was like, "Yeah," and shoot,
That's
I committed
awesome.
right then and there, and they
That's
played
sweet,
country
man.
rules.
Yeah. So you left campus already knowing. That's great. That's super. That's
Yeah,
super
I got
cool,
back
man.
on the flight. I was already committed.
That's awesome, dude. And I have to imagine, like, that's a weight lifted off your shoulders, especially like you said, when this was an opportunity that came pretty late in the grand scheme of things. You were probably starting to weigh some of your other options. But, you know, a guy in your spot with 1 year of eligibility left, you don't transfer somewhere to go ride the bench or to play second fiddle, right? You go over there to make an impact right away. And I'm sure that's your mindset going into this upcoming fall season. Spring ball is a huge part of that. But how do you prepare yourself to go out there and be an impact guy from day one?
um, you just gotta work. Like, you just gotta do the work every day. Some guys taking time off right now because we got a couple weeks off. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like you gotta be different. You gotta be that 1%. You gotta be the change. You gotta do stuff people that's not doing right now. So that's kind of my mindset. Like wake up every day, still like I'm at West Virginia. Grinding every day.
Yeah, and the timing of your transfer portal is really important because it's before spring ball. right? So that allows you to get on campus, to be able to work out, to practice with these guys, and to start to, I guess, acclimate yourself to that building and those guys. Because, of course, yeah, you got to learn, like, you know, some of the way they operate and things of that nature. But you also just want to learn the guys, like be around that locker room, be with those guys before the fall, so you don't have to do all of that on top of everything else that comes with fall camp. What was the biggest learning curve for you when it came to spring ball this semester?
I say the biggest learning curve was probably the speed of the game. It
Really?
was
Okay.
like things was more faster, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like even in the weight room, like jogging everywhere, like doing stuff to how they want to, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to adjust to, how they run things, and the tempo of the game in spring ball, it's fast. And so it was just a learning curve, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just different from D2. So but it's gonna help me out in the long run. So I'm kind of grateful I transferred in the spring so I can showcase my ability.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And the next question was going to be about, the biggest difference in your day to day, right? Being in the facility, being in whether it's the training room, what are you eating? What are you putting in your body? The weight room, those kind of things. But you kind of answered that already, right? You talk about how they are able to maximize and make the most efficient usage of every single minute that you probably have in there. That's probably been a welcome change for you, right? To have all these resources, amenities right at your fingertips.
Yeah, it's definitely different, especially like West Virginia facility is all in one. Like you got the locker room, you got the
Yeah,
calf, you got the weight room, nutritionist, trainer room,
that's
academics.
awesome.
Like you know what I'm saying. So it was just like that's one thing I did like about it because I can go from here to here in less than 30 seconds. You know what I'm saying? We got academic people in there. Like they take things serious. They take good care of you. We
Mhm.
work hard, but they take care of you. So.
Yeah, and now you talked about, I say taking time off with air quotes because, like you said, there ain't no real time off. It's just being away from maybe the facility for a little bit. Will you be back there working with the guys throughout the rest of the summer then, or what? How's that work?
Yeah, we go back in a couple weeks, so
Okay,
we do
awesome,
start
man.
our summer training and stuff like that.
And I gotta imagine like it's a big difference too of coming from the D2 level. I played at a D2. You obviously understand how it goes. Of yes, you get to focus on football and performing in that way, but then you got to go figure out like what am I eating for dinner? Like, how am I going to go find time for the trainer? Like, you got all these other extra deals that you have to figure out, and usually those kind of fall by the wayside, and that's where guys start to get into a bad diet or start to forget things or certain out of those deals. I'm imagining that's not the case down there. Talk about
No,
how important that is, how big that spins. You can just focus on development and, getting yourself better.
it's definitely different because you could like focus on football more. At D2, like
Yeah,
we didn't have no indoor, and you couldn't go in the locker room and get your cleats at any type of time. And
right?
if it's cold outside, you can't go work out in the indoor. So it's just different. Like you got the calf, you got football players got their own calf at West Virginia. So
Man, okay.
they
Yeah,
like
now we're
they take
talking.
good care of you. Like I said, you eat good, you eat good. You know what I'm saying? And treatment kind of stay open for a certain amount of time where you can go to class and come back if you got to, and they work around your schedule. So
Okay.
that I like it.
Yeah. And I'm sure for some guys, like maybe that could kind of have them get real comfortable, like, hey, I got it made. But I'm sure for the majority of you guys, it makes you want it that much more.
Yeah, like I said, I still keep the walk on mentality with me. Like I always remember where I came from because I seen my growth from day one to now, and it's kind of amazing. Like I got some videos on my phone. You'll be like, "Dang, that's you!" Like you know what I'm
Really?
saying?
Going through
Yeah,
some like skill work or what?
yeah, skill work. It looks
Okay.
crazy. Like I have to send it to you. Like it looks crazy.
Yeah. But that ain't going out on the Twitter or anything, I imagine.
I might post. I might post it when I declare
You
something.
should. That would actually that'd be awesome. Like literally beginning, like you talk about, to here now when you make that next jump, right? Going to the next level, like I think that'd be really neat. So those tapes, they definitely need to see those tapes. That's good.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that, bro. Sweet, man. But no, that's all I got for you. Super excited for you. And like I said, I think just hearing about that is really neat. And that walk-on mentality is something that, again, whether you're at a West Virginia, whether you're at a D2, a D3, otherwise, people can relate to that a lot. And I think for guys from your position who have gone through it, who have lived it and done this, man, and done it at a really high level, I appreciate you sharing that, dude.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your night, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You too.